Hi, Peter Charles here, Hooked for Life Fly Fishing. And some of the tubes I've tied so far are fairly easy. Today we're going to tackle a more complex one that we have to do a bit of planning as we put it together. It's called the Comet, and it is basically fire tiger colors. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't work for bass, pike, steelhead, salmon, you name it, this thing should take fish. Especially for smallmouth bass, I think it would be great. So let's get going and look at the materials. I'm going to be using a 3/32 of an inch copper tube here. I'm going to use black thread and my Viva 6/0. We're going to use some gold rib. This is flat tinsel. We're going to be making our wing out of 3 colors of bucktail: red, yellow, and black. We're going to do them in different stages. The body is going to be red and black floss, again in different stages. So let's first start by tying on our thread at the beginning here. Now the next step is to tie in our yellow. And what we're going to do is we're going to not use an awful lot here. We're going to take a decent clump. You don't want it too thick. And we're going to tie it round. So what we're going to do in this particular fly is we're going to stack it. Again, not mandatory, but I think it ends up being better. This is going to be fairly long, so we're going to mark a spot on the vise where we're going to put this on. And what we're going to do is we're going to spin it. You notice I didn't do a pinch loop. And we want this yellow to go all the way around. Double check it. When you're happy, get a good tight bind on it. Just bind this nose down, and then keeping the bucktail distributed around the tube, and don't let it move around too much. Take your time, move it around, and check that you're keeping even wraps. That looks pretty, oh, there we go, there. See, we got a bit of a bare spot there. I just fixed it in. Now, of course, you see that flaring out. Don't worry about that. That'll settle down after we put the junction tubing in. Now we're going to tie in a rib. We're going to tie in 2 ribs, actually. We're going to start with a rib at the back. Okay, now the red floss, and take off about 1 foot. You're going to need quite a bit here. This is going to, it's a fat tube, so it's going to end up needing a lot of floss. And now for our tinsel. Wrap at the back, then come forward. Now onto our red bucktail, and we're going to do the same thing we did with the yellow. We're going to stack it. And we're going to put it the same length as the yellow. Bring our thread to the back of the black section. Check the length and spin it around. Now you finish moving it with your fingers. I would suggest some gentle wraps bringing this forward. Try to keep it even so as not to cause it to spin. Once you've got that work done, bind it down. Find out where the end is on your tube. Now we'll come in and trim. Bring your thread to the back, tie in your rib, batch your thread, and take a good, maybe even as much as 15 inches of floss here. One of the things you can do too is you can always put your floss in a bobbin to make this job easier, because trying to judge the length you can run into problems. It's very easy to end up with not enough floss. I came close with the red. Now this is not like doing a floss body where we're getting a lovely smooth layer. You're wrapping over bucktail, so don't beat yourself over the head and shoulders if it isn't perfectly smooth. Okay, wrap at the back, wrap forward. One of the challenges is to get an even wrap when you've got bucktail underneath, which may not be perfectly even. You can end up with some bit of odd wraps. Don't sweat it too much. You notice I'm doubling this over for strength. This is not your genteel bodies, you know, and genteel fly, where everything is really super neat. I wouldn't get too excited. Okay, bring your thread to the back. Now we tie on our black. Again, we're going to stack. Now, I probably don't have enough black to go all the way around. So let's not sweat that. We'll just put a different clump on if we have to. So I'm just going to spin that. Yeah, we're going to put a second batch on. Just tighten that down. Trim off. Give it a bit of a slope. Now we'll go underneath and tie the other batch on. Again, check your lengths. Now at this point I'm going to take a moment to look around, make sure I don't have any big gaps in here, because I'm still at a stage where I can move things around a little bit. There we go, that looks pretty good. Okay, we bind that down. I'm going to trim off that excess. Whip finish. UV glue. Now for some top coat. There we go, the Comet. Now you can see that yellow flared out of the back. Don't worry about that. As soon as I take it off the vise, that will lay right down. That's where a junction tube is going to go anyway. You're going to get a bit of flaring on the yellow, but other than that, it's a straightforward pattern. Bit tedious on the number of steps. The thing is to make sure that you've got your bucktail spread around without having tons of it, because it's meant to be relatively sparse and not super heavily dressed. But you know, it's an attractive pattern. I love the fire tiger colors, and it should do well for a whole bunch of different species. So give it a try, the Comet. Cheers.